Sir Eustace Henry William Tennyson d'Eyncourt, 1st Baronet KCB, FRS, was a British naval architect and engineer. As Director of Naval Construction for the Royal Navy, 1912 to 1924, he was responsible for the design and construction of some of the most famous British warships. On the 20th of February 1915, Winston Churchill appointed him chairman of the Landships Committee at the Admiralty, which was responsible for the design and production of the first military tanks to be used in warfare. Personal life. Tennyson d'Eyncourt was born in April 1868 at Audley House, Baronet, Hertfordshire. He was the sixth child of Louis Charles Tennyson d'Eyncourt and his wife Sophia Yates. Through his father, he was a cousin of Alfred, Lord Tennyson. He was educated at Charterhouse before becoming an apprentice in naval architecture at the shipyard of Armstrong, Whitworth and Amp Co. in Elswick. By 1898, he was employed as a naval architect in Govan, Glasgow. There he met Janet Burns, a widow whom he married that same year. She had 2 children from her first marriage, Kingsley and Gwyneth. Together she and Tennyson d'Eyncourt would also have a son and daughter, Cecily and Gervase. Janet Tennyson d'Eyncourt died in 1909 when accompanying her husband on a business trip to Buenos Aires. He received a number of awards and honors. In 1921, he was elected to the Fellowship of the Royal Society. In 1930, he was created a baronet, and was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts in 1946. Tennyson d'Eyncourt was succeeded in the baronetcy by his son Gervase. His great-grandson is writer Adam Nicholson. Career. As an apprentice at Armstrong, Whitworth and Amp Co., Tennyson d'Eyncourt worked on the design of warships for the Austrian, Italian, Norwegian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Turkish governments. He joined the Fairfield Shipbuilding and Engineering Company of Govan in 1898, before returning to Armstrong, Whitworth and Amp Co. in 1902. In 1904, he undertook consultancy work on the state of the Turkish Navy, which earned him the Order of the Mejidi, 3rd class. In 1912, Tennyson d'Eyncourt was appointed Director of Naval Construction with the Royal Navy. He pioneered new forms of ship construction that helped provide protection from torpedo attack. After the outbreak of the First World War, he was entrusted with designing airships for the Navy, and also with undertaking the design of landships, which could advance through no man's land, a machine now better known as a tank. Tennyson d'Eyncourt resigned from the Admiralty in 1924, rejoining his former company, Armstrong, Whitworth and Amp Co. However, the firm failed in the late 1920s owing to the building slump following the end of the war. In 1928, Tennyson d'Eyncourt joined the board of Parsons Marine Steam Turbine Company until he retired in 1948. He lived for most of his retirement in Hailsham, Sussex, but died in London in 1951. Design characteristics. In his battle cruisers, large light cruisers, and the Hawkins-class cruisers, d'Eyncourt evolved a novel hull form. In cross-section, the hull was an isosceles trapezoid, with the ship's sides sloping inboard at an angle of 10 degrees from the vertical, while outboard of this, external bulges extended over the full length of the machinery spaces. The result was a hull structure of great strength, and the sloping sides increased the possible spread of impact of shells, thus giving greater resistance to penetration. The aesthetic side of naval architecture has seldom been given much attention, though it is as much of an art as the architecture of buildings in general appearance. The opinion has been expressed that d'Eyncourt created some of the most elegant and eye-pleasing warships ever designed, the prime example being the battle cruiser Hood. Ship designs. Danecourt was not necessarily the principal designer of the vessels listed below, but had ultimate responsibility for them. Battleships and battle cruisers. Brazilian battleship, later HMS Agincourt. Turkish battleship, later HMS Aran. Chilean battleships Almirante La Torre, later HMS Canada, and Almirante Cochrane, later HMS Eagle. Revenge-class battleship. Renown-class battlecruiser. HMS Hood battlecruiser. Several very large capital ship designs, both battleships and battlecruisers, rendered inadmissible under the Washington Naval Treaty. HMS Nelson battleship. Cruisers. GRC Catson is HMS Chester. Arethusa class. C-class Caroline-class Calliope-class HMS Champion Cambrian-class Centaur-class Caledon-class Ceres-class Carlisle-class Hawkins-class large cruisers. Danai-class cruisers HMS Danai, HMS Dragon, HMS Diamond, HMS Enterprise, HMS Kent. Large light cruisers. Later aircraft carriers HMS Courageous, HMS Furious. Destroyers R&S-class destroyers, V&W-class destroyers. Scott-class flotilla leaders. Submarines J-class, K-class. Other types: monitors, patrol boats, minesweepers, sloops, gunboats for China Station, merchant ship conversions into seaplane carrier, tanks. Danecourt was chairman of the Landships Committee, created by Winston Churchill, which oversaw the design and production of Britain's first military tank. Writings. Danecourt summarized his World War I work in an article, Naval Construction During the War, published in Engineering, the 11th of April 1919, pp. 482 to 490. He also published an autobiography entitled A Shipbuilder's Yarn. Bibliography. Churchill, Winston. The World Crisis, 1992, Macmillan Publishing Company. ISBN 0-684-194538. Lee Raymond's List of Baronets. Danecourt. A Shipbuilder's Yarn, the record of a naval constructor.